This one, I don't know if I was surprised. I was a little confused. David Ugwoegbu has entered the transfer portal, and I'll tell you straight up, I don't think this is a good thing for the roster. Now, do you have guys that are more talented, right? They can run faster. They can maybe diagnose a little quicker. Probably, right? But just being around the team this season, it was clear David Ugwoegbu was the leader on that defense. And it is vocal and emotional. That's as Stutzman is, like, every time I talk to coaches and players, like, they always brought up Ogwoegbu. So good leader on and off the field. I was told, throughout spring, throughout summer workouts, throughout training camp, like, he was the guy that was setting the standard, setting the tone for the defense. Teammates respect the hell out of him. Guy was voted a captain. I mean, you want to have as many of those types of guys on your team as possible. So I saw this. I mean, what's going on, Ted? Because it seems like David Ugwoegbu, if he's going to play another college season, we'd want him to be playing at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. And, I know that he was, he really got a lot from the last season. He was happy to be a part of it. And it's not like this is not a bad blood type of transfer portal thing. I don't think it's that at all. I think that every now and then just a change of pace can be good. Can be good for he can start at a bunch of places. But here's the thing. I don't know necessarily that he would have started at Oklahoma next season, and if you're a guy that has played a bunch of football, you've started a bunch of football, you're 6'5" Mike Backer coming from Oklahoma, you're probably going to have some really good options out there in the transfer portal. So I'm excited for him. I think he's definitely going to land on his feet and have some success somewhere. But I think you're right whenever you talk about the leadership aspect. I always watch the backers to see who's the guy in that group, and there's no doubt that he was the guy. He ran the drills. He was the voice. He's the one that everyone followed. So, you lose those guys from time to time, and it leaves a void for someone else to step into. Maybe that's Stutzman. Maybe that's, one of the younger guys. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But that leadership quality is going to be missed. I do think that we will be better at Mike Backer than we were this year. But I'll say this. I think that would have been the case also if Ogwoegbu stayed. I think that he obviously would have improved another year under his belt, second year in the defense, would have helped him out a lot. But some of his qualities for sure, somebody's going to have to step up and take hold of those.
Who do you, and you mentioned that and it's crazy, spring ball's only a couple months away. We'll get into some discussions about that position group, but who do you think fills that position, right? And Mike Backer, like, do you think he kicks Stutzman from Will to Mike, or what do you think that looks like?
I think that it makes me feel like Deshaun McCullough is probably going to play some Mike Backer. The way they play Mike, the Mike is actually bumped out of the box more than the Will Backer is. So a lot of times you'll have the Mike is always the guy that's displaced over the number 3 receiver. So you can have McCullough out there. He's got great length in the passing game. A lot of stuff they do, like whenever they get into that bare front in 11 personnel, the Mike Backer is up on the edge and could be the edge rusher. So I think that plays right in for Deshaun McCullough. I don't know. I haven't had the conversation, and I don't know that the coaches know where they're going to play him. But I with Ogwoegbu hitting the transfer portal, it tells me there's a pretty strong chance that we may see Deshaun McCullough playing some Mike Backer, at least, at some point in some packages. But
That's interesting.
I think it's going to be an open competition. I think there's, it seems like there was a lot of ground made up by the younger guys over the last, month and a half of the season. Kobe McKenzie's name started to pop up as a guy that's made a lot of headway. Obviously, Kanik, we all know about him. Kip Lewis as well. And they're bringing in some dudes now, some guys that are, it's going to take them a little while to acclimate, but there's some guys that are going to push that position. And we should get Shane Witter back at some point, who had to miss the season because of a shoulder. So I think that room's going to be competitive. And I think there's a really strong chance that we're quite a bit better across the board at backer.
All right. I'll take your word for it. I just didn't like seeing it, right? You
No, I know. I
lose one of your captains to the portal. That's typically not what you want. All right. Other portal stuff. Michigan transfer wide receiver Andrel Anthony has committed to Oklahoma, chose OU over Miami, A&M, Penn State, and Notre Dame. This is a guy that has not been a productive player at Michigan, but when you look at the size, 6'2", 190, that checks the box you want it to check. And then his highlights, like you see the glimpses.
He's got some wheels now.
He's got some juice, but the thing about it is like, okay, and I know that Michigan's quarterback situation has not been elite over the last couple of seasons. I understand that. But when you see some of those highlights, you see him catch, what was it, the drag against Michigan State and just take it to the house.
Yeah.
You're like, why is that guy not more, like, why does he not have more production? It kind of sets that alarm bell off, but clearly you can see the size, the talent. Now it's up to Jeff Levy and Emmett Jones to get the most out of this guy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the other thing is, their evaluation obviously was the same as a lot of other people's, because it's not like you were beating Wyoming and Idaho out to get him in. Like the list of schools that were making offers and trying to get him to come play for him is pretty good. It's the company you really want to be in. I think he's had maybe some injury issues, which kind of led to the lack of production. And, obviously their offense is a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, there's questions there, right? How can you have that size and that type of explosiveness and top end speed and not have more production where you're at? We'll see. Hopefully there's no problem areas and he can come in and compete right away. I know this right now. We don't have a lot of 6'2" burners on the roster right now. So he's going to have some opportunity.
Yeah. It never hurts to add 6'2" guys that can run at wide receiver.
Nope.
Now we'll see how quickly he can digest Levy's offense. We'll see how quickly he can develop chemistry with Dylan Gabriel, but this is the way I see it. I'd rather have him than not.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're adding talent to the room, right? And we'll see. I don't know. I've got a good feeling about it. Just the burst, the explosiveness. It's been a while since we've seen a guy separate like what I saw in that Michigan State clip. It's like,
yeah,
if we get that guy, then I feel really good about it.
It's like I saw that clip and I remember that play even, but it was one of those where I was like, okay, why is this guy not like a 700, 800-yard receiver for Michigan, And I know they lean on the run game. I get it. And I know that JJ McCarthy, maybe not the most polished passer, but when you got talent like that, I don't know, it made me skeptical when I watched some of those clips of him just having, fantastic individual efforts. And then I looked at his stats. I was like, this doesn't add up here. You know what I mean? It made me wonder what the heck was going on there.
Yeah. I guess it's all worth it if you get like a handful of those plays, right? Hey, you give us a couple of those in the right moment, then it's all worth it. So yeah, I'm optimistic about it. That Michigan State, if you guys haven't seen it, it looks like whenever they hand the baton to the fourth leg and there's someone that is like clearly faster than everyone and he comes from out of the pack and just is gone. It's impressive.
Yeah. So we'll see what he ends up being for the Sooners, but appears to be a very talented player. Okay. Other portal additions: Wake Forest transfer defensive lineman Rondell Bothroyd.
Yeah.
Bothroyd.
Yeah.
That's what we're going with. Has committed to Oklahoma. He's one of the top edge guys in the portal. Has good size, 6'4", 260 pounds. You look at his career stats: 16 and a half sacks, 4 forced fumbles, bunch of TFLs. But I think there are two things that are really exciting about him. Number one, he is old as shit. It's his sixth year of college football. We've talked about being mature and old, just having that grown man strength at the line of scrimmage. I mean, this dude's old. That's good. And then the second exciting thing, looking at all the pictures, all the clips at Wake Forest from this season for him, guy had a C on his chest. Captain at Wake Forest and old. And this has become a theme for Brent Venables and this staff with these portal additions. Like, they want guys that were captains at their previous school. And it seems like adding a veteran guy that has been in a leadership role, has played a ton of football, like, it's a very positive thing for that edge room.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. He's got some good size to him, and he's going to be stepping in and by far the most productive defensive line player that we've got. I mean, there's no one that comes even anywhere close to those type of numbers that he's bringing in. So I'm excited about it. Like, there's starting to be some good depth on the edge with Bothroyd, with Trace Ford coming in. R. Mason Thomas is going to be a big player at that spot. Obviously the guys that we had from a year ago with Reggie Grimes and Ethan Downs, and I think you even got to factor in the true freshman coming in. He's starting to appear to be like one of those guys that you're going to say, okay, yeah, he's going to play some as a true freshman for sure. So the edge looks like we're shoring up that position quite a bit. Because flat out, we talked about this. We've got to get better on the edges. Got to, in both the pass game and the run game.
Have to improve, and that's why you assume they bring Bothroyd. We'll find out soon enough how to say it. That you got to assume that's why they bring him in, to add some experience and some production to that edge room. And this is something I thought about. Like, clearly Venables and Chavis both saw this guy play in the ACC, right? Mm-hmm. So they've had eyes on him. Their offensive staff there at Clemson undoubtedly scouted this guy. Maybe in that team meeting, they were like, hey, we really like this kid. And Venables remembered that once he was in the portal. It was like, hey, this is a guy that we want to add to our football team. So, going back to those Clemson days for Chavis and Venables, I assume that's one of the things that kind of sparked them wanting to bring Bothroyd. I really need to learn how to say that.
I haven't heard anyone else say it yet, so that's why I don't know.
I'll just keep saying both, even though I'm sure it's very annoying.
Bothroyd. Okay.
Bothroyd. I feel like Bothroyd sounds better. Sounds more likely.
Bothroyd. Yeah.
I don't know. All I care about is that he's good at football. We'll learn his name soon enough.
And he is. The edges are looking better.
Yeah, another portal addition. Texas State defensive lineman Davon Sears has committed to OU's, got a couple years of eligibility left. Chose Oklahoma over Tennessee and Penn State, according to the stuff he's put out on Twitter. Look at the size, listed at 6'2", 290. But another one of these guys where I don't know what I'm supposed to think. Like, if he's choosing between Penn State and Tennessee and OU's winning the recruiting battle over those two schools, hell yeah, let's go. But very little production So I'm a little like, how am I supposed to feel, Ted? What am I supposed to think about this? Because I don't know. Like, the fan base seems excited. You get a recruiting win over those two programs, you should be excited, but guy hasn't really done anything.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a numbers game, and right now it is very difficult in the portal defensive line market. Anytime you've got a defensive lineman that people feel pretty strongly about, everyone is coming out of the woodwork. So there's such a need at defensive line. It's hard to know, like, how good actually do they think he is, or are they just trying to supplement the roster? As of right now, I think Sears is someone that you have to consider probably going to be a rotational type of defensive lineman for him, which you have to have, right? Perhaps he comes and things click and the scheme fits him really well and has some good development, strength and conditioning, and through the offseason, and ends up turning into a starter for you and perhaps a star. I think the expectation right now is probably safe, thinking of him as a guy that's going to play. He's going to be a rotational player, but at this point, it may be a strong statement to say he's going to be a starter or an all-conference type of player. I don't think that's the case.
I've got no idea. I've got no idea what he's going to be, but this is what I'll say. Like, if you are winning recruiting battles against those types of teams, then you got to feel good about it. And you got to put your trust in Todd Bates and Brent Venables to develop this guy. Clearly, there's something about the physical tools that he has that got a lot of people excited. Ted, I have acquired the 2019 Wake Forest Media Guide with Pronunciation Guide.
Look at you.
Rondell Bothroyd.
Bothroyd. Yes.
Bothroyd.
We got it. We're locked in. No more guessing.
Bahth Royd. Bothroyd, right? That's what we're rolling with.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Look at us. But yeah,
what a name. That's a good football name.
It's a strong
Rondell
name. Bothroyd. Oh, T-Row's going to have some fun with that one, undoubtedly. But yeah, the defensive line has certainly been addressed via the portal. Sears, Bothroyd, Trace Ford, Jacob Lacey. You mentioned PJ Adebawore. We'll see if Derek LeBlanc is a factor at all, but a lot of new faces along that defensive front.
Yeah. And with Bothroyd, that's going to be a guy that plays a lot of football. Starter, we'll see. Trace Ford, if healthy, that's going to be a guy that plays a lot of football. Starter, we'll see. Jacob Lacey, Sears, couple of rotational guys to go with a guy like Coe, who I think is really starting to come into his own, and he's going to have his best year. And I bet he has a big year next year. And like you mentioned, Adebawore, we'll see. Our Mason Thomas should make some nice strides throughout this offseason. We should be stronger at the defensive line and edge position next season.
Yep. All right.
Experience. That's good. We added a lot of experience.
Added experience, guys that have played a lot of football, which is always a good